Sports stories from the 419 in Northwest Ohio, brought to you by a voice you know. It's time to go around the area and around the Hearn.
Hello and welcome into a very special edition of Around the Hearn. If you listen to all of the podcasts in this series, you will have heard this a handful of times, and for that, I'd apologize, but it's just the easiest way to do it. I've got a massive undertaking with this series. I did this last year and didn't have as many coaches, but have been blessed to have so many great coaches be a part of this. 45 total interviews where you will hear from girls coaches, boys coaches, and a little bit of a preview of the season, which kicked off last night as I'm recording this. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way, as my daughter would say, gobble, gobble, gobble. But I really love this series, and I really hope you enjoy it. I hope you reach out to me either on Facebook or on Twitter, because it's a labor of love. 45 coaches are separated like this. Putnam County girls are represented by Calida's Adam Huber, Vaughn Horseman of Audubon, Sean O'Connor from Fort Jennings, and Ross Yearman of Miller City. Putnam County boys, Connor Coles from Grove, Mike Lee from Pandora Gaboa, Scott Keck from Continental, the one and the only Keith Utendorf from Audubon, Ross Kaufman of Miller City, and Ryan Steckschulte from Calida. Northwest Conference girls, Adam Burris, who's had a big week. He picked up his first win as the head coach of the Bluffton girls. Had a big turnaround, too, because they were outscored in the first half, but held Corey Rawson to just 11 points. Greg Ekus, in a decade of Ekus at Spencerville. Aaron Montgomery at Allen East. Kyle Williams from Lincolnview, and Mark Gregory from Crestview. NWC boys, you've got Ada's Vince Halliday. Kevin Sensabaugh from Spencerville, now in his 22nd year, by the way. Gabe Young from Allen East. Jordan Jettinghoff from Delphus Jefferson. Brett Hammons of Lincolnview, and Doug Etzler from Crestview. Midwest Athletic Conference, Parkway's Dan Williamson, Amy Meyer from Coldwater, Best Drive from Marion Local, Mike Wiss from Minster, and Andy Timmerman from New Bremen. The Midwest Athletic Conference has the entire conference full of coaches. Aaron Elwer from St. John's, Travis Swank from Versailles, Doug Hughes from Parkway, Eric Rosenbeck of St. Henry, Nick Fisher from Coldwater, Mike McClurg from Minster, New Bremen's Corey Stevens, Kurt Gottemiller from Marion Local, and Carson Monger from New Knoxville. Western Buckeye League, Kenton's Ryan Miller, Trey Elkert from Wapak, Matt Tabler from Elida, and Tyson McLaughlin from Ottawa Glandorf. WBL Girls, Hannah Flippo from Van Wert and Elise Jenkins from Elida. GMC has both Wayne Trace coaches, and Jim Linder on the boys and Bethany Desjardins for the girls. Shelby County the exact same way for Fort Loramie. Carlos Siegel and Mitch Westerheide. And just for good measure, Anna's Nate Barhorst. Those are the coaches that I was able to spend some time and talk to this week and the last 2 weeks. And it has been quite literally a huge undertaking, like I said before. So I really hope that you enjoy it, that you get some entertainment, you get some knowledge, you get some value out of it. I'm really excited about the basketball season starting and the crossover with the state semifinals for football this weekend. And I can't thank the coaches enough for being a part of it. And without further ado, I bring you the 23-24 Around the Hearn season basketball preview. Enjoy. Northwest Conference basketball, and a place near and dear to my heart with the Bearcats and 22nd year head coach Kevin Sensabaugh. Last year coming off an NWC title and a 21-3 year. You return at 4 starters, 4 out of 5. I think Meatloaf said that's not bad. That's a heck of a way to start what I hope is a big campaign for you guys.
Yeah, I hope so too. But those returning guys are, they're at the heart of it for sure. Now, did all 4 of them start together? No, not all the time. Carter Sutoff was an every game starter. Evan Osting started at the beginning of the year, got hurt a little bit. So my son Owen took, he kind of came into the starting lineup there for him. So they both started. Carter Orr didn't really start until the end of the year, but he started. So they all have experience starting, but they all didn't start together. So that's where that comes from. But we've got a pretty good nucleus coming back. Those guys all played huge minutes for us last year and were really good, contributors. So we've got a pretty good nucleus to build around, and we've got some good young guys that are going to go along with them. And we're looking forward to it. That's for sure.
When we talked last year, I had asked you about how you were going to feel coaching Owen now he's a year older, obviously, and you bring Will in as a freshman. I mean, do you still kind of, that doesn't necessarily sink into you sometimes of, you have all of your kids, you want to treat them all the same way, but you also kind of think about things of, okay, I know maybe I could say this a little bit differently to him than I can say it to, say, Evan Osting.
Well, yeah, listen, Owen has been really fun to coach because he allows me to get on him a little bit, and he takes it pretty well. I was pretty hard on him even as a freshman last year, and he kind of took it in stride, and it made him better, and so he's been a pretty good example for his younger brother. But coaching them both is interesting. But like I've said before, I do my very best to coach them while we're in practice, not while we're at home. So when we get home, I'm not the coach anymore. I try to leave that there at the gym and take care of business while we're at the gym, and those two get very separated. And I want it to be that way. I try not to bring it home, but yeah, they've done a good job. Both of them are improving and getting better, but not just those two, all of our kids are just, they have been gym rats. They really have. Evan Osting and Carter Sudoff don't play a fall sport. So they were in the weight room and in the gym, and they were just, they took advantage of their time, and they've worked really hard at it. And, Carter Orr and Will play football, but they were both in the gym outside of football. And so we've just got a bunch of kids that like to be in the gym, and that's kind of a neat thing for a basketball coach. You got a bunch of gym rats, you're going to be all right.
I was just kind of figuring about the Sensabaugh boys that every time something goes right, you just kind of look around and say, someone's dad must have taught them right.
Yeah, no, I don't think too much. I that's the weirdest thing is that, when you're coaching, you're coaching to, to make this team the best version of itself. And you kind of have, I guess you do it naturally, but you kind of have to pull yourself away from who you're coaching, like, oh, I'm coaching my kid. That's a really cool thing. I never really thought much about that until the season was over last year. And at that point, you sit back and reflect a little bit and go, yeah, that was a pretty neat experience, but I can't believe it's over already. His freshman year was over. And so now that, Will's up there playing with us now too, it's a pretty neat thing. But I don't really have time to think about them. I just don't. We worry about getting better and what we can do to make ourselves the best version of ourselves. And so that doesn't really leave a whole lot of room and time for thinking about my own kids. I want them to, just like all the other kids, I want them to do the right thing and play the right way. And as long as we do that, we'll be fine.
Well, because it's obviously a little bit different. You guys go through from 2010 to 16 and 17 where you have 14, 15, 16, 18 wins. And then your kids see kind of up close and personal the 4 years where the most you have is 8, that, they see that ebb and flow and they realize kind of what it's going to take to get back to that point. 21 wins the last 2 years of, I would think, because I have seen them pretty much their entire life, that made them want to work even harder just to be a part of that winning culture again.
Yeah, so they've been around kind of, a little bit of everything. They were around when we were really pretty good, and then they were around for the lean years. And, I think it bothered them as much as it bothered me, the lean years. They didn't like losing, and they didn't like that our team was losing. But, I think looking back, those were difficult years, but they were the most educational years that I've probably ever had as a coach. I learned more about, myself and and I learned that even though I'd been coaching for a long time, I still had a lot to learn. I mean, it was really educational for me, and I think it made me better. And, obviously it made me better probably for my own kids too. So, and they've learned, how much you have to put into it if you want to be good at something. And I think that's a neat thing for them to learn. I think that's a neat thing for any kid to learn. But yeah, I mean, they've definitely seen it all.
You guys are in the absolute murderer's row district in Division III, and in a way, I mean that nicely. But last year, you had two just absolute knockdown, drag-out fights with LB and with OG. I mean, obviously, you don't come out on the right end of the OG one, but I mean, how much, if you're being honest, how much fun are those basketball games? Because those games, watching those, were about as pure basketball. And I know that the coach part of you would nitpick it, we didn't do this or that, but to just be able to kind of watch that high level of basketball and go, Northwest Ohio's got some ballers, and that's pretty cool.
No doubt about it. But those games are the games that you want to be in. That's why you play. You play for those moments. I mean, at least I did. I just thought, that's the most fun when you have the most people and there's the most at stake. That's a blast to be a part of those. And it's such a valuable experience for our guys to have had that last year. A lot of those guys are coming back and they played big time minutes in those games. Those are, that's hard to replace, right? That's really good experience for any kid, but it makes you hungry too. You want to get back to that. I always tell, and we've always talked about this as a coaching staff, that we want to play in games that are incredibly we want to be relevant, right? We want to play in the games that are the most meaningful at the biggest times. And, getting back to that stage this year to the, hopefully getting to the district finals and have another shot at it. I mean, it would be a neat thing. And that's, like I said, that's what we play for. Unfortunately for in my coaching career, we've not made it past the district finals. We've been there 7 times. We've never won that game. So that's the next hurdle we're trying to get past as a program.
You look at the start of your season, your 4 away games in your first 5 are pretty much tournament atmospheres. I mean, you take on not only terrific head coaches, and for my money, one of the smartest head coaches in the state in Eric Rosenbeck to kick off your year, but you also, you get terrific places to play, but ones that are kind of a pain to try to win at with Elida, Crestview, and Audubon.
No doubt.
You find out how good you are in your first 5 games.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be tested. We go to St. Henry to open up, and they've got everybody back from last year. They are going to be really good. So we're going to find out what we're made of right away. And then to turn around the next week and play at Elida, who's got everybody back from last year, that's going to be another barn burner. And then, another road game is Crestview, and it's never easy to win at Crestview. It's just, yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple games there. That first 5 games is going to be a tone setter. There's no doubt we need to, prepare ourselves. But the neat thing about that is that's going to prepare us for the rest of the year. So, we look at it as a great challenge, but also a great opportunity to get better.
One of the teams that a lot of people talk about year in, year out, obviously, is Crestview. When you look at the Northwest Conference, you almost hit an NWC eliminator in your first 2 weeks right out of the gate that can really kind of set the tone for how the league is going to go the entire year.
Well, that was the case last year, when they came over to our place and we beat them with a layup at the end, at the buzzer kind of, and that kind of set the tone. I remember thinking after that game, wow, we've kind of put ourselves in a really good position here with that win. And it'll be no different this year. They're going to be very good. It's going to be at their place. They've got a really good player in the middle, Brent Sheets, and got a nice supporting cast of guys around him that played last year and have some experience. So, Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, and hopefully those early games at St. Henry and Adelaide help prepare us for that moment.
How good did that win, though, feel? I mean, the fact that you're able to do that after you suffered the heartbreak in their place the year before, you guys hadn't won in 5 or 6 years against them, and just even going back to the last time you had beaten them, where that was a 2-point game of, hey, finally we're coming out on the right end of one of these.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to get a win, but each year is different. Each team that you have is different. So for that game, I mean, or for that last year, it was just that game we knew was probably going to play a huge role in who won the conference, and it did. So I'm just glad that we came out on top. That was a fun atmosphere too, and a lot of people there. That was kind of like the marquee game of that weekend. It was neat.
I thought it kind of felt like a game in the old closet because it was one of those where it was packed. Everybody you know and everybody they know is there. And it was those kind of games that every single shot, every rebound, every loose ball just mattered a little bit more.
Yeah, and again, that's the kind of game you want to play in. That's how you test yourself. That's how you find out what you're made of. That's how you find out, if what you're doing in practice and the culture that you're building is the right thing and it's working and it's real. That's how you find out. You don't find out in a blowout. You find out in a tight game against a really good team with a lot on the line. And that's like I said, that's what we want to be. That's who we want to. That's the kind of game we want to play in.
You mentioned it a little bit, but I am always amused with Nate being able to do your games that you make yourself and make the kids so accessible. What was it about that group that was so much fun last year? They would show up and wear a cowboy hat in their post-game interview. I kind of thought maybe your kids weren't all there.
I honestly have no clue how that started. I mean, so one of our JV players last year wore a cowboy hat to the game. He's a farm kid. That's just what he did. He wore a hat, and everybody's, kind of, hey, nice hat. When he walked in, no big deal. And he left it in the locker room. And I don't even know where it came from, but I guess when somebody got player of the game, somebody dared him to wear the cowboy hat up there, and it just kind of stuck. So every time somebody got player of the game and got interviewed with Nate, they were supposed to wear the cowboy hat. So, and Nate told me that he wanted me to wear it if we won the conference. And I said, if we win the conference, I'll be glad to come up and wear that hat and, do the interview. So it was a neat thing.
But it is weird, though, because every team has something little like that that's sort of a rallying thing or a thing that brings them a little closer together, not just as, players and coaches year in, year out, day in, day out, but also kind of as human beings, and it kind of puts you on the same level.
Well, I think one of the things that happens is when you are, building a team and building a team environment and a culture that people want to be a part of, you kind of grow together and you spend so much darn time together that, you just start knowing each other and quirks start to show, and I think that's a neat thing. That's a cool thing about being a part of a team, part of something that's a little bit bigger than yourself, is that, you start to get to know people's quirks and people's tendencies, and, you have fun with it. And I guess that's what they did. And it stuck. And I don't know that we're going to do that this year. We might have to find something new this year.
Well, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. When you look at the NWC this year, obviously you guys and Crestview are teams that a lot of people will put out as their target. How do you kind of see where you guys fit into the NWC this year?
Well, I know Crestview is, and rightfully so, they're one of the teams that everybody always looks at. But Bluffton's going to be outstanding. I mean, they've got an entire roster back from last year that they were really good last year. They're going to be really good again. So yeah, it's going to be a tough league. There's no doubt about it. But I feel like we're right there with those top teams. It's just going to be a matter of, who continues to get better and who stays healthy and, who gets a few lucky bounces here and there. And we'll see how it shakes out. But I'm looking forward to getting it rolling here soon.
I always tell every coach jokingly, hey, good luck unless you play Spencerville. But I truly mean this. Good luck to you in every game.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's the one time that works out.
That's right. We'll take it.
That's Kevin Sensabaugh, the head coach at Spencerville. We've got some more of the Northwest Conference here in just a couple of minutes. Talking blue and gold of the Lincolnview Lancers now with the 11th year head coach and Brett Hammons. Has it sank into you? I mean, that you've been there, you've coached almost 300 games.
Tell you what, it goes fast. I mean, to think I've been here 11 years, going into my 12th, I believe, as a head coach. I mean, it's went extremely fast. I mean, usually the years we've had some good, we've had some bad, but the seasons usually fly past. And to think I'm one of the longest tenured Northwest Conference coaches is crazy to me.
Yeah, you're halfway to Kevin, though.
I am. He's been in a lot longer than me and does a really good job. So
I like to remind him of that whenever I get a chance, that I was young enough that he was playing in high school when I was in middle school. Actually, I think I might have been late elementary, and that I was watching him kick field goals on the football team, and then he just kind of says, I don't think you're funny, and that's pretty much the end of that bit. With that, with kind of the way that last year went, I mean, you guys going 2-1, it struggled. You were in a lot of games, just didn't have maybe the punch that you had in other years to get over those humps. Does that make those years a little bit longer? Or I know you, as kind of an optimistic guy, are you able to look at that and go, okay, if we're in this scenario again, did I learn something that maybe I could tell them that next time maybe we can pull one of those close games out?
Yeah, I mean, there were some games we were close in, and then games where obviously we got it put to us and got put in running clock. But, I thought we competed. That's the main thing. And, I've talked with other coaches because we've been, pretty successful with our records, usually staying around 500. And, when you have a group that goes 2-21, it's how do you motivate these kids, to get them to believe and give ourselves a chance going into the next game. I mean, so I think that's something we learned from last year, and giving them confidence that we are close in some of those games, and how this off season we got to use to get better. It might give us a chance to win those and those sort of things. So kind of just getting that experience of how to deal with losing more games and trying to convince kids to continue to work hard and continue to get better, and win the little battles and quarters and those sort of things, and just try to spin things as positive as we could. And we'll see how this year goes.
A little bit of the same thing. When you start out 0-5 last year, you beat Fort Jennings by 12. Unfortunately, you go through that streak of losses before you beat Ada by 1. The night, Michael Jordan's birthday, by the way, February 17th, when you beat Ada, maybe that's a little bit of luck. How big or how kind of relieving was that win at that point, especially being your last game at home that year?
I mean, it was awesome. We were talking right before the national anthem that in our tenure there, we've always won a home game and won in our white uniforms. And, we were down to our last home game, and we're sitting there like, we got to get this done. Because we didn't want to be that at first that we never won in front of our home fans. And I think it was just a relief. I mean, the kids had worked so hard, and I think we were down 14 at one point halfway through the third. So to battle back and to be able to find a way to win that game, I think was huge. And it was a relief just to see the smile on the kids' faces, because like you stated, I mean, we're close in so many games, and, to finally get over that hump and for them to get a W was huge. And I think it, helped us that week and kind of gave them an understanding that we could get the job done if we stuck together and did some good things.
I think it would have been bad, and I'm glad that I did not do that game, only because the whole time I would have been thinking, it's the last game of the year, Brett. Can't hold anything back. Because I'm just pretty horrible about things like that.
Yeah, I mean, man, we kind of switched what we were doing to try to help ourselves that game. And, luckily we were put the ball in the basket just enough to find a way to pull it out.
Week before that, though, you guys had an experience that I've had twice and have been blessed to be a part of. You got to go to the Hoosier Gym. Didn't work out the way that you wanted against Arlington. What was that experience like? Because, first of all, I have to imagine for a head coach, it's different in that you have that big court at home, and you have to maybe remind the kids, we can't run these plays stretched the way we normally do because that court has smaller dimensions.
Yeah, and it was a little different. I mean, we kind of tried to refer to it to the stage at Jefferson, how their sidelines are a little smaller and court might just be a little smaller, to kind of give them perspective of what we might be playing on. And, we were able to adjust. And, yeah, it's in my tenure here at Lincolnview, I mean, it was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And I think no matter win or lose at that game, I mean, it was just a joy to be in that gym. And we hung around for a while just to soak it all in, which was cool. Like, we took the kids to the movie theater earlier that week to show them the movie Hoosiers, and about half my players had never seen the movie. So
that should be day one.
I know. Well, I had one of my players ask when they went to the state finals and played in Hinkle Fieldhouse if that's what we were going to play at Butler. I'm like, no, it'd be sweet if we got the opportunity to do that.
The boosters really love you if that's true.
I know. Yeah, but so I think they enjoyed the movie and they got to learn a lot about it. And when we got to go there and witness the areas where the movie was filmed and those sort of things, it was just cool. It was a great thing to take in, and I think it was a joy for Coach Vermillion and their team as well, and all the fans to experience that.
It's a different kind of thing though, because I've asked a handful of coaches about this, that it's a game, obviously, that counts. It's a game on your schedule. It's a game you want to win, all that. But is it, to you, maybe more of like an exhibition game in that you want your players to experience that, and maybe you try to get a couple of kids in that you want to get everybody in, ideally, that maybe you wouldn't have in your normal, say, top 9 rotation?
Yeah, I mean, the game was close for a while, and then Arlington ended up pulling away. But we wanted to get everyone in. I mean, you want everyone to get at least, and I think all of our players that got in attempted a shot. It was nice to have our JV play also, and all those guys got in. I mean, just so they could experience it and get that opportunity to play on that floor, because not everyone does. I mean, one of the guys that helps work there in Knightstown, their high school, and he said his grandkids are a senior and a sophomore at the school. They've never played there. So even the school in the town hadn't played there, and he just wanted his grandkids to get to experience it because it's just such a cool experience.
It's like going to a club in Middle Point. You're so close to it, you just don't do it.
Yeah.
But everybody else does it. When you kind of look back at that experience, I mean, that's so cool, though, to be able to do that, because not a lot of schools have gotten to do that. But I know they developed a great relationship with teams in Northwest Ohio, and also that they know that doesn't matter where it is, you put the words Northwest Ohio somewhere, they're going to bring a crowd with them.
Yeah, and we did. I mean, we got a limited number of tickets, and so did Arlington, and that place was packed, especially as small as it was. It got loud in there, and we enjoyed it. I know the kids enjoyed it. I mean, going back to the game, I mean, we even pulled out the old uniforms that the 95, 96 team wore.
Those old guys like Frank Hill.
Yes, yeah, his junior year when they went to state, those are the ones we wore, and my players obviously like those because now obviously these shorts have to be short on these guys instead of down around the knees. So they absolutely loved them. And then Coach Vermillion went old school with the sweater vest and his little playbook to act as the coach. So that was a cool experience as them as well.
Like I said, I've been there twice, and it's an amazing Coldwater Salida the last time, which actually got canceled and moved back a year because of COVID. And then with Fort Loramie there, I know Corey Britton said he jumped when they called. They said the word Hoosier, and he was like, I don't care what the next word is, I'm in. Yes. I'm glad, though, that they were able to get to do that. You look at this year, and it reminds me, by the way, if you're going to liken it to something, the kids won't necessarily know, but playing in the old Lincolnview gym, which to me I always referred to as the Alamo because it's smaller and it's just weirdly lit.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. This year, you kick off with, I'm told, is supposed to be a pretty good Wayne Trace team, and I talked to Jim Linder, and he's pretty thrilled about the team that he's got coming back. Hey, you might as well hit the gates in full speed, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time we usually play them in the first couple weeks, but for it to be our first game, straight out of the gates, it'll be interesting. We played them this summer, and obviously what they did last year in the tournament run they made, and with everything they're returning, I mean, they're extremely skilled and talented, and we got to be ready to go. And they're probably one of the best teams in our area, so it could be a pretty good measuring stick for us on kind of where we're at. But yeah, to be able to play them early and to never really have to go against Stoller or Brooks lock off. It'll be nice because they're two really skilled players to be able to score 1,000 points in 3 years. And, Brooks is going off to college to play at a really good school. So they're talented, but we got to be ready to go.
You've got Cal, Reed, and Creston all coming back as 3 of your 5 starters. Obviously, Cal has a great year last year doing a little bit of everything and an all-conference pick. What is this team capable of if they gel right away and you work in kind of the newcomers that you've got? And I know there's one that's probably near and dear to you more than the others. Everybody matters, but I know there's one that probably means a little bit more. If those guys are able to come in and make immediate impacts, what can this team do?
I think we got a chance to get better, in all honesty. We're switching the way we play. I mean, last year we sat in our zone and, we thought that might give us the best chance to win at times. And, times it did and sometimes it didn't. But, we got about 8 guards that just want to get after it, so we're going to look. We've been pressing, all preseason to try to get these guys going. We're going to look to sub more. And, I think we can do a better job of scoring. We got some guys we told we got to work on shooting from the outside.
Sounds simple.
Yeah, I agree. To me, but and we're putting in different offenses and doing things to create shots for our guys. And, if we can knock down shots, we're not going to be the biggest team out there, but we're going to be quick and we just got to battle, every single day. And, we told them the off season was huge and we had the guys put in a lot of work in the weight room and in the gym. So, looking forward to it, on what we can do. We've had some good scrimmages. So, just preparing, I think the way hopefully we'll be able to shoot it and defend will keep us in some games and give us some chances. So, really looking forward to this year.
Kind of a common theme on this podcast with a lot of these coaches has been about coaching your son. I mean, have you kind of thought of that yet?
Yeah, and we don't know. He'll probably play a little bit of both, JV and varsity. He's been doing some good things. I've actually, when he came into high school now as a freshman, I went and talked with Kevin. I went and talked with Todd Boblin. I went and talked with Doug because they've all coached their kids. How do you treat it in the gym when you get home and those things you do, just so I can get an idea of how to be, to be a coach and then be a dad, and not try to carry things over or be too critical of him. And I guess however I coach him, my assistants want to coach him differently, and those sort of things. But
do you go after him as the dad or the coach then at that point?
Can't say that usually to my coach. Usually as coach, and if I get too hard on him, they'll be there. But he listens and he does a great job and has a great attitude. So and I told him growing up, and I've told all my boys this, wherever they're at, it's going to be more pressure on them, I believe, because wherever I put them, it's, well, they're doing this because their dad's a coach, or they're doing this because they're, and those sort of things. And, I just want what's best for them and for them to succeed on the court and, try to help their teammates out the best they can and be the most positive influence on all the guys with their attitude and their effort. So, we'll see how it goes. I'm excited for it, but time will tell.
I thought Kevin and Aaron Elwer had maybe the best piece of advice when I asked them about it. It was, when you walk out of the gym, basketball's over with.
Yeah, and that's how it's been for us, and if he wants to talk about anything, we talk about it. But yeah, as soon as we get in the car to head home, I mean, it's all nothing really doing with basketball whatsoever unless he wants to. And it kind of goes back to being a dad mode then. And, it seems to work out so far through our 3 scrimmages and our practices so far.
I just told those two guys, I said, what I want to hear is each one of your kids in the car say with you, man, my coach, I just don't know if that guy's very bright. He just says things to me. Like, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. It's a neat thing. I can only imagine, though, how that separation has to be in your brain at all times.
Yes, that it does. That it does. So, like I said, we'll find out and see how it goes.
Well, I wish you guys the best. I know I'm going to see you at some point. I don't know when that is. I just kind of drop in from here to there, but I'm excited, and I can't say thank you enough for spending some time with me.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate you wanting to talk with me and sit down and talk about our team this year.
That's a look at Lincolnview. We've got more in a couple of minutes. Hanging around the Northwest Conference for just a little bit longer, talking Delphus Jefferson basketball with the head coach and Jordan Jettinghoff, who I say this every year, but is one of the few people on this podcast that make me feel old because I actually did some of his high school games, and now I feel like you're almost well-tenured at Jefferson.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like this is year number 8 for me. I can remember starting back in 2016, 2017 season. And yeah, it's flown by. We've had some pretty solid seasons. We've had a little bit lower seasons, but yeah, I enjoy coaching. I enjoy being around the kids, being in the gym and helping them get better as both athletes and young men. So excited to get year number 8 started.
Well, it's kind of funny because Kevin Sensabaugh is the other one, and I just talked to him recently, and he's in year 22 now. So that's a whole other thing, but he said I made him feel old, so I think that kind of evens out. When you look at Kevin, obviously his team has been good the last couple of years. He's got his 2 sons in a terrific starting lineup. Would that be, if you're pointing to the Northwest Conference, where you would kind of start if you're going top to bottom?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, even though he lost 2 really good guards last year with Henline and Smith, they returned quite a few great players, and obviously bringing in his younger son to probably take over for Dylan Smith, I would assume. Yeah, I would start there, and then right below them, I would obviously put Crestview because even though again they lost the senior class, they're going to be kind of probably reloading a little bit with what they have, and then I think Bluffton and Grove probably right there at the top for the NWC. But yeah, those 4 will be tough. It would be interesting to see this year how those 4 kind of shake out. But then hopefully, I mean, we lost a lot from our team last year, and we're going to try to find some younger pieces to plug in. So hopefully we can be near the top. But we've got some growing up and maturing to do for some of those younger players that haven't gotten too many varsity experience yet.
And that was going to be kind of my question. Your 2 guys that start every game last year, Levi Rohde and Trent Tiemann, they combined for 20 points a game, over 10 rebounds, and about 5 assists a game. When you look at kind of having only 3 seniors this year, who does that job sort of go to? Who's the big – is it Carter Agner where he has to step up as a junior and sort of take over that you guys get on my back role?
Yeah, and Carter, we kind of talked to him at the end of last year because we knew we lost 6 good seniors. It was a good class. They were very cohesive, and they just wanted to win, and you could tell that. So losing a class like that where you have 6 of them, you kind of looked at how were we going to have that leadership when we knew our senior class wasn't going to be as big and maybe as athletic as before. But yeah, Carter, he had a great offseason. Him and Isaac Gallmeyer are our 2 returning starters that we're probably going to lean a lot more heavily on those 2. Whereas last year we were very balanced. Like you said, we had guys that averaged 7, 8, 9, and then Trent up at 12. So we were very balanced last year. This year we'll probably do little things a little bit different to make sure Carter's getting the ball and Isaac's getting his shots. But yeah, we'll have to hopefully get those 2 guys shots, and then like I said, other guys kind of getting their roles figured out and how they're going to best help us.
You guys go 12-12 last year. You take your 2 seasons before and add the win totals of 6-6. When you look at your schedule this year, you have 5 of your first 7 at home, and you've got heavy hitters on that schedule. You start out in just a couple of weeks at Wapakoneta. I mean, there's no rest for you on your schedule because the places you have to go, even having all those home games. I mean, you guys go to Salina, not an easy place to win. Crestview, Lincolnview, LCC. You just kind of ever look at your schedule and go, can we just get an easy night like near the end so we get some confidence and then work from there?
Yeah, I mean, we've thought about that as a coaching staff and talking to AD about what's best. But at the end of the day, I think, and there's a lot of coaches, I think Coach Sensabaugh too, me and him have talked before about just playing tough competition. And yeah, there might be years where you may not compete as much against some of those teams. But when you have a good class or a good group of kids that want to compete and are very good competitors, that they'll probably end up getting some of those wins when you may not feel you are as big of a school or as skilled as them. But yeah, I mean, like you said, that December month, we usually get off to a big start with Walpock and, like you said, Salina, and we throw in Bluffton as a conference opponent in there too. And yeah, it's usually tough, but we'll get our guys ready, and I like our energy that our guys have right now. So we'll see what happens December 1st against Walpock.
It's also nice that you guys are pretty much adopting the old school NWC. I mean, you've got Perry in there, you get Paulding in there. Next year, obviously, with Lipsick. That's nice that you're still, and even LCC sort of yes and no with the way that things have worked out with them. But that's nice that you're staying close to home with, teams you've traditionally played.
Yeah, for sure. Like Perry, I think we got them on schedule for Jefferson back when I was in high school. I think it was like 2008, 9, 10, around there. And we've had them on the schedule ever since. And that was back when Coach Taylor first took over Perry, and always obviously loved playing Perry with Coach Taylor. And now we have Elida on the schedule with Coach Taylor. And yeah, we've got a tough schedule, but like I said, I try to instill in our kids just being competitors and being tough. And yeah, it might be nice to have 1 or 2 maybe easier type games, but I like our schedule where we're at.
I know your answer is Wapak because that's your first game, but when you are able to just sort of skim the schedule, you have that big travel night where Delphos St. John's has to make the trek across town in December, and then after you play away for what seems like the entire month of February, you get Spencerville at home to wrap up the regular season. Those kind of games, because they're big rivalry games within town and that team down 66. Are you more hyped for those games, or are the kids more hyped because of just kind of where they're at in the season? You get that one big one early and the one late.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a huge competitor. I've kind of always been that way, and hopefully, I think I might be a little bit more competitive during those games, since they're rivals. But I try to instill that competitive kind of spirit in our kids, and hopefully they're kind of as amped up as I am. But yeah, we've got a lot of good teams, good opponents. Like I said, Walpock with the talent they have coming back. Obviously, St. John's with Cam and the talent they have coming back. And then at the end of the year, you got the 2 Sensabaugh boys and the talent Kevin has all around him. Yeah, we'll have our work cut out for us, but hopefully our guys are ready on this Friday and Saturday nights.
I joke about that, but I mean, some games, whether people want to admit it, so I joke about that, but some of these games, do actually kind of mean a little bit more just because they're those atmospheres. I mean, with those in town and in close rivals, those games are just fun, I think, because the community gets into it and it's sort of a different thing. And, not as a disrespect, but you guys don't have the history with, say, Ayersville or Waynesfield Goshen that you do with St. John's and with the Bearcats.
No, yeah. Those Ayersville and Waynesfield don't have that, like you said, they don't have that kind of history that maybe, like you said, rivalry kind of aspect to it. But yeah, when St. John's comes to the stage this year, it'll be a different atmosphere because last year, going to the Vatican for the very first time, I think it was the first game in maybe 50 years. I think Jefferson and St. John's played way back when. But yeah, that was the first time we went to the Vatican. It was a great atmosphere, even though the game didn't go very well for us. It was a great atmosphere, and I think the the town of Delphus benefited from that night.
Well, as I tell everyone, the only person I can tell the opposite is Kevin. I wish you all the luck in the world except for when you play Spencerville.
Yeah. No, I totally understand.
I can't go 100% to a Wildcat, growing up in the Ville. It's not a thing.
No.
And I don't think you would expect it, but I thank you so much for spending some time and talking about your club.
No problem. Hey, love talking hoops. Love being on. Love doing this. It's that time of year where coaches get those interviews and go to places to talk about their team, and it gets me a little bit more amped up and excited for December.
That's a look at the Delphus Jefferson Wildcats. And Jordan Jettinghoff, we've got more here in just a few. Allen East basketball on a tap now as the head coach of the Mustangs. I have nothing witty to say here at this point in Gabe Young. I was going to make a joke. We were talking about names and etymology of syllables before we came on, but I didn't have anything fancy. Gabe Young is the most beautiful name because of its simplicity. So congrats to your parents for that, I guess.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I'll let them know.
It's just easy to spell, too. But you've got a lot of juniors on your team. You got a couple of us. You have, 2 seniors. And you've got a team that a lot of people feel like is maybe a sleeper this year in the NWC. Is that accurate?
I think so. I think we lost 5 really, really good seniors last year. 4 of them were starters for us. So we've got guys that came off the bench a little bit for us last year. Played some minutes, but not a ton, I shouldn't say. So we have guys that can play, guys that are pretty basketball smart. Sleeper, I don't know if I put us into sleeper category or not. It's too early to tell, I think, right now, whether we're that team or not. But I'm glad people are at least thinking about us. That's a plus.
Look, I tried to lead with the nicest things that people have said, okay? I'm trying to pump up your program here. Back-to-back 14-win seasons. Last year, though, ends with about as much of a heartbreaker as you can get. Regular season, you had won in overtime by beating Upper Soda Valley right around Christmas. But in February, that game with Bluffton, how many years did that take off your life of going to double overtime and they're able to pull away at the end? But you guys had chances in regulation and in the first overtime.
It took. I definitely got more gray hairs for that. There's no doubt about it. That game was a heartbreaker for us. Bluffton's kind of one of our rivals, close school. We know a lot of the kids. The kids know us. Me and Todd are coaching friends. We talk a lot here and there. But so that game was super tough, and it's even hard to go back and watch. I think I went back and I watched it one time, and I'll probably never go back and watch that one again. We had a shot at the buzzer that to end the first overtime that was in and out. But the big strain there was when our point guard fouled out of the game, and that was huge for us. Carson carries a huge load for us every game. We ask him to do a lot. But when he fouled out, kind of took the winds out of our sail for sure.
And it's kind of a crazy thing because I talked to a couple of coaches, and they say that losing those kind of games are the hardest on a coach, not because necessarily of the loss, but because you talked about losing 5 seniors. At that moment in double overtime, when the clock hits 0, you're on the wrong side of the scoreboard. That's the last moment that you're going to have those kids out together on that floor. And then you have the unenviable task of having to go into the locker room and try to find something to have them pick their heads up.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, that was a 5-minute silence in our locker room once we got back in. Players, coaches, kind of everybody knowing that was the last time that those guys were going to step on the floor, and that's the way they ended their high school career at Allen East. And then once we did start talking, of course, the emotions start flowing, and you realize that it's the last time you're going to see those kids in an Allen East blue and white uniform, and it kind of all hits you kind of all at one time. But, hopefully we kind of put that into the younger guys that, hey, we don't want to have this feeling, where we come in here and we play really, really well, and we're not on the right side of things there at the end of the game. But kind of use that as motivation going into this year for sure.
Is that the hardest thing that people don't understand about coaches? Because, I mean, they look at wins and losses and, yeah, you're good. You won the first game. Boo, you're bad. You lost the second, or whatever it is, that they just don't understand of, that week of practice going in, not knowing, is this going to be the last time I have this group in our gym? And then with the tournament, with losing of, you don't understand what this does, what kind of toll that has of that was the last time I'm going to have that group together competitively.
Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people don't understand unless you've been there as a coach. And, every year, you're going to lose seniors and, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. And the next year you're going to try to rebuild and you're going to lose kids again. But the last week of practice, you don't ever want it to be your last week, but you're kind of going in with the mindset of this could be the last time that these kids step on the floor. And in that Bluffton game, started the fourth quarter, I didn't think it was going to be. We kind of had a commanding lead there in the fourth. We were up 11-12, going into that quarter. We just hold on. Bluffton made a run at us, and we just couldn't stop it for whatever reason. They hit shots, and they did things the right way, and we just could never get back in it then. But yeah, that's the toughest thing as a coach, that I'll say wins and losses, they come and go, but losing kids every year is always the tough part of things. There's some kids that have done so much for your program in 4 years that you hate to see them go. It's nice. We still get those kids back in the gym. Like, they come to our open gyms in the summer and they still play. We ask them to come back like an alumni type game against our varsity guys. So we still get those kids back in the gym, and it is nice to see them on occasion. We have a couple of them, one kid's playing football at ONU, Jacob Hirschberger. So, we get to go over there and see him do his thing in another sport. So it is nice. You get that kind of camaraderie and that family, and it's nice to get those guys back in the gym, but nothing will hurt you more as a coach than to see your seniors walk out the last time.
With your current group, when you hit the floor, you get kind of hit the ground running with Ridgemont and then going to LCC, but then you kind of put the brakes on because of the oddity in that you don't play again for 9 days until that next Sunday when you play Lima Senior, or play at Lima Senior rather, when you play Thurgood Marshall. How important was that for you, even despite the fact that maybe you had to give up a Friday or a Saturday game of doing something else non-conference, to be able to play and put your kids in an atmosphere like that one at Lima Senior that Q puts out?
That is a great atmosphere. Like, I would play in that every year if we can. It's something that our kids look forward to playing. We get to play against a team that we would probably 9 times out of 10 never schedule. I mean, let's be honest, we're probably not going to put a D1 or D2 team on our schedule. But we get to go do that and go play a team like that. 2 years ago, we did it. We played Middletown up there, and it was a great experience for our kids, our coaches, our fans to go up there. And it's a fun atmosphere. Coach Q does a great job in running that thing, and you get to see really good basketball all weekend long on Saturday and Sunday. So we look forward to it. I was a little disappointed we didn't play in it last year, but we got back in it this year, and yeah, we're excited to play in it again for sure.
You've got a massive non-conference schedule that you guys have ramped up. I mean, Emmanuel Christian, you've got Liberty Benton all in that group, and that's just 2 of the insanity of what you've put on your schedule, not even counting teams like Wapak. Theory behind that is that we want to get ourselves in the best spot to be ready for the playoffs. We obviously want to win as many games in the regular season, but we want to be that team at the end of February that's trending in the right direction and have been battle-tested.
That's exactly the reason why we do that. We looked at our schedule, and there were some games on there that weren't as competitive as maybe they used to be with the kids that we have coming through the program here in the next few years. So we wanted to add, more top tier teams. We added Liberty Benton, we added Walpock, we got LCC, but now LCC is coming in the league. We added Emmanuel Christian this year. We're going to continue to add those kind of non-conference games. Plus, our league is so tough. When you have to go up and play a Spencerville, a Crestview, a Bluffton, those teams that have been really good the last couple of years, we need the games non-conference to get us ready to play in our conference even. But biggest thing is wins and losses during the season, but we want to push forward. Sectional district is kind of where we want to look forward to towards the end of the year.
Well, I really hope that not only the sleeper role comes, but you guys wake up and do a lot of damage throughout the course of the year.
I'd love to see it. I hope we do. I think we got the kids to do it. We have a very hungry bunch. Like I said, they're a young group with only 2 seniors this year. But I think they're capable of doing some good things this year for sure.
That's Coach Gabe Young talking about Mustang basketball. Starting with the A's, because that's how the alphabet works. With the head coach and Vince Halliday, the Ada Boys program, in his 3rd year. First of all, big year for you guys last year compared to your first year. You get 10 wins. Last year, you go 4-19 the first year. But you're going to have a very young team with losing Carter Conley, an honorable mention pick in the league. How are you feeling as we get close to the season?
I feel good right now. Obviously, we're only about a week and a half into this, but it's a completely new group. I graduated 9 seniors last year, and we're probably going to start 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores. I think generally speaking, we're going to be more athletic than we have been the last couple of years, and we're going to have. I played like 6 guys a bunch, and I really think that I can play 10 to 11 guys this year. So that just makes things a little bit more exciting.
With your switch, obviously having spent a long time at Lima Senior coaching girls basketball to now flipping over to the boys, there are a lot of coaches that say it's a huge adjustment, not only for the kids of, hey, what's this girls coach know telling us about basketball? Have you found kind of that run that you kind of are in your zone of, okay, this worked a little bit. I can take a little bit of this from Lima Senior. Maybe this didn't work so much, and have sort of worked it into how you are going into this year?
Yeah. I just coach basketball, you know what I mean? And I kind of coach the girls how I coach basketball. I had assistant coaches that kind of dealt with quote unquote girl drama, and obviously when you're coaching boys you don't necessarily have girl drama, but you do maybe have some different things that you got to deal with,
drama,
and obviously
it's just a whole other thing.
Yeah, sure, but it's just different that way. And I've kind of always kind of coached hard, and even the girls understood back then that with me and my time it was about basketball, and let other people deal with some of that other stuff. And I coach these guys. I've had no pushback from the guys in Ada at all. I think they appreciate the fact that I want to be there. I chose to come there. They had a lot of turnover prior to me, and now that I've kind of established that I want to be there, I want to continue to try to build something. Now with this young group, I don't really have any issues as far as that goes. But as far as basketball goes, I'm not a guy that says this is my system, this is what we're going to run. I try to build something based on the personnel and the talent that I have. And obviously, that's a little bit different from what I had at senior high compared to what I have now in Ada.
When you came into this program, they haven't had a non-losing season in the conference since 14-15. They haven't had a winning season in the conference since 11-12. Are you able to kind of look at those things in a long view and wonder if, maybe this kid buys into that or whatever, or are you able to just kind of rah-rah and get them to, none of that helps or hurts us this year?
Yeah, obviously the Ada's been really good. They've had some really good years in both football and basketball, and it's kind of been in a downturn over the last several years of both sports. And Toby Smith's a friend of mine. He's a football coach, and we're kind of older guys who've been around a little bit, and we know what success looks like. We know what winning looks like, and we know what kind of work that needs to be put in. We're working really hard and trying to change maybe the culture a little bit in Ada that way, especially things of buying into being tougher and being stronger and getting guys into the weight room and building that aspect up of our athletes that we share there at Ada. And so far it's been a slow process, but again, when I inherited the program 2 years ago, I had 8 juniors. Last year, I graduated 9 seniors. So I really feel like now with this really young group and most of these guys being 2 or 3 sport athletes, we're changing that mindset of needing to be stronger, needing to be tougher, and working in the weight room and doing that in a year-long process, which is only going to help us be successful down the road.
5 of your first 6 games are at home. You obviously go to Macomb. You've got 2 back-to-backs in your first 3 weeks. How much do you think that's going to help this young group of, 1, being able to play at home in front of their friends and all of their family, and 2, being able to be tested against some very good teams earlier on for later when you have to just get on the bus every night?
Yeah, I mean, I think being at home gives you a little bit of comfort level. The back-to-back thing, I think, will help having depth this year with the idea of playing 10, 11 guys every night, being a little bit more aggressive defensively, maybe being able to extend the defense beyond, the quarter court. We can get to half court, 3/4 court, full court type things, and having that depth when, in the past, when you're only playing 6 guys, you're playing back to back. That second night was really tough, and I think this year we actually have a few less back to backs. I believe last year 20 of our 22 games were part of back to backs, and I think this year it's down to 14. So I think that'll help, and having the depth and having younger legs will obviously help as well.
When you scout the NWC, who do you see near the top this year?
Well, I think Spencerville's the team to beat till somebody beats them. I expect that. I expect them to be very good. I know they got some guys back. I know they got some young guys coming in, and then Bluffton will obviously. I would assume that they'd be up there as well. Crestview lost some pieces, but I also feel like they had some at the lower levels. But I would think that, again, until someone knocks Spencerville off, as far as I'm concerned, they're the team to beat. And I mean, for me personally and us, I haven't won a league game yet in 2 years. So this is our last year in the league. So I sure would like to get one to start with and see if we can build from there.
I mean, I wasn't going to bring that up, first of all.
Well, I did. Nice. It's fine. I own it. I own it. No problem.
The answer obviously is the next game. You're talking about Ridgemont, but do you have a game that jumps out to you for whatever reason that you just absolutely cannot wait for?
No, I don't know. I don't. I thought how I think. We didn't have. I'll be honest. We didn't have a great practice tonight, and I'm just looking. My focus will be on making sure that tomorrow's practice is better than today's. And we got a scrimmage on Friday night, and we try to get better every day. And I know that's kind of coach speak, but I can't look that far into the future as far as our schedule goes. We're so young, and I just need us to get better and set the mindset of what we want on Friday and Saturday nights when those games do count for real.
Well, I appreciate you as always.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Any time, and hopefully you can make it to Ada, or Ada will be in the gym that you're covering one night, and hopefully we put on a good performance for you.
It's very possible. That is Vince Halliday talking about the Ada boys basketball program. We've got more coaches coming up here in just a few. Making a trek out to Convoy now, talking about Crestview Knights basketball. And if you look at the Crestview Knights and kind of the way that they've gone in the last couple of years, you guys have been off to a great start, Coach, and you've got a lot to sort of figure out this year with losing 7 seniors. But I'm pretty sure the rest of the league doesn't feel bad for you because you have one of the best players in the conference and in the area in Ren Sheets coming back, and that sounds like that's a heck of a way to start.
It definitely is. Having Ren with 2 years or a year and a half of varsity experience, and last year was a very, very good post player for us and really complemented our guards well. I believe he shot like 73% from the field overall last year. And he just did a tremendous job defensively of securing things inside for us, rebounding, and, really, really lucky to have him back this year with the seniors that we lost, and hoping he can provide a little bit of leadership for us.
And you bring in a handful of new players, juniors and sophomores, Tommy and Evan in that list being your juniors. What coming out of the gate can you realistically expect with that young group trying to blend themselves in?
Well, just looking at our lineup, I know everybody's going to look at what we lost, and we had a really good senior group last year, but I have a a group of seniors this year with Connor Sheets, Jarrett Harding, and Kellen Putman that were a big part of our rotation last year. And they were more of a complementary role type player for us last year, and we're going to ask them to be more of the main role this year. But they're guys that have been very successful in our program at the JV level. Last year, they tasted some playing time at the varsity level, and were a big part of coming off the bench for us and keeping things the same and not letting things fall back. Now we're just asking them to take a step up. So I think people are going to be a little bit surprised with how good those three guys are. They were just behind another senior class last year that had a lot of good players in it also. And I think maybe on some other teams, they probably would have been a main role type player for them versus for us, a little bit more complimentary. So I think they're going to be a little bit better than what people think. At least I'm hoping so. And then we're throwing in a couple of juniors this year that played at the JV level last year as sophomores, and our JV won the league last year. So they had a great season. Now we're asking them to do it at the varsity level. And sometimes that takes a little bit of time to get used to those roles and playing at the speed and physicality that you had to play at the varsity level. But we had a great summer, so we're hoping that can translate over into the early part of the year, but we do have a very challenging schedule to start the year too.
3 of your 6 tournament wins last year are 6 points or less, including a state semifinal win over Highland. You've got that double overtime game in Elida in the district that I know Keith Utendorf is probably not over yet. And then the game in Marion Local in a BG, that had its own crazy ending. You've been around basketball a long time. Can you remember a 6 and then obviously the state championship game, 7-game stretch where you've got such a dichotomy because score-wise, I know it didn't happen on the floor, but score-wise you were able to win 3 games by 9 or more, but then you had those 3 games happen of if 1 or 2 shots go a different way, we're going home early.
Yeah, we say you hope luck is on your side in situations like that. And last year we were very fortunate. We had a group of guys that never quit battling last year. That was one thing. Sometimes when you get behind, you put your head down. Our guys weren't those type of players last year, but we knew going into the tournament with our sectional district teams that we were going to play, we were going to have to play extremely well. And then you hope in the fourth quarter you give yourself a chance to win the games. But we knew Delta St. John's was going to be a very good team. We played during the season. They beat us during the season. We knew it was going to be a tough battle. We were lucky enough to have both Kalida and Ottoville at home last year during the season where we played on our home court. It's going to be tougher when we play on, a neutral floor. And obviously Ottoville gave us everything they had. And we were fortunate enough to get out of there. And then anytime you get to the regional level, you're going to play a team like Marion Local. Hopefully not every team has a 6'8", 6'9" guy, but we knew that they were going to be very good. They play in the MAC to go through the schedule that they have. We were going to have to be very sharp to compete with them. And then hopefully, like you said, get to the fourth quarter and have a chance to win. We were very fortunate that their shots didn't fall. Maybe the turnovers went our way, a call here or there that went our way. We were very fortunate, and, you don't know if that's going to happen every night, but we had a group of guys that didn't quit battling, and I'm proud of that for the way they stuck with it. When we got down by 10 against Ottoville going in the fourth quarter, we were down 7 going in the fourth quarter against Marion Local. They didn't quit. They didn't hang their heads. They took it one possession at a time, and we were very fortunate that it worked out for us. And I hope that gives our young guys, we have some seniors that went through it last year and guys that were a part of our tournament team, that they are understanding that, hey, it's not over till that final horn sounds, and you got to keep battling every possession and keep grinding and give yourself a chance to win, hopefully late down the stretch.
I'm really curious to know this from your side because I got a lot of yes to this question. When you were at the state championship game and it's that Sunday and you've built, obviously you beat Berlin Highland a couple of days early, you get that day in between. Did you get a sense or of the players that maybe it seemed like a lot of Ohio was rooting for you guys to beat Richmond Heights because of all the rigmarole and all the things surrounding that, which I'm not really asking, but that maybe people who weren't necessarily Crestview fans, at least for that day, were Crestview fans?
Yeah, I think that happens. Richmond Heights didn't take nothing away. I just watching them on film and then watching them warm up. I mean, they play extremely hard and they're extremely gifted. I mean, they got guys that can do things that most Division IV high school players don't. You know, you get one of them, that's great, but to have a team of them. So I think the underdog role, when you get to a state tournament, you're playing against a team that on paper is going to beat you 10 out of 10 times. So I think that the neutral fan kind of leans towards sometimes the underdog type of team. And that's what I kept telling our guys. I do think if you can get this to the fourth quarter, which obviously we didn't, but if you can get it to the fourth quarter and it's close, I think the entire gym pretty much is going to be cheering for you. And if we can get that going on our side, you maybe can have a shot. But obviously we knew going into it. And I remember the day before practicing and talking to my assistant coaches is like, this is a game. We need a month to come up with a game plan that we can put together to be competitive. And, you know, we're not telling our guys this. We're telling them, you know, we do this, this, and this, we got a shot, but we're going to have to be perfect tomorrow to get this done. And we need more time. But here, what can we get done in this hour and a half, 2 hour time frame to compete with them tomorrow? So, you know, obviously fortunate that we didn't have to play them till the state final game, but it was an uphill battle. And we knew if we could keep it close, we probably would have a lot of underdog cheering people on our side if we could get to that point.
This year, you guys have 6 of your first 8 at home before you go away, kind of out around the holidays. But you've got my favorite experience of all time coming up in January when you go to play Purcell Marion at the Hoosier Gym. I've had a couple of coaches talk about that during this experience, or about what that experience was about this week on this podcast. But when that opportunity comes to you, I mean, how quick back did you send the message of, yes, of course?
Yeah, it was a real quick for me. I'm a basketball junkie, and I grew up 15 minutes from the state line. So I'll be honest, when I was younger, when cable TV wasn't a big thing, I got all of the Indiana games. I couldn't watch Ohio State games because we couldn't get them broadcasted out in the country where I live. So I don't say I grew up an Indiana fan, but I got to watch those teams playing when they were really good with the Isaiah Thomases and, you know, back in the day. So of course, when the movie Hoosiers comes out, it's something I'm going to have a chance to go watch, and I've watched it I don't know how many times. It's neat. I would say probably even neater for me than it is for our kids, because a lot of our kids have never watched the movie Hoosiers. They've never seen that. So that's one thing we're going to do that week. We're going to, you know, I've had some parents work together, and we're going to go to a movie theater, and we're going to watch that as a group. But yeah, I jumped on that right away. And it was a fortunate thing. We play Arlington every year, and Arlington was invited to the Martin Luther King Classic at Fort Laramie. So Coach Vermillion asked if we could take a year off so they could go play in that, but then we'll pick up the schedule the next year. So my AD came to me and said, hey, if I can get us into the Hoosier Gym, do you want to do it? And it was yeah, as quick as you find somebody, and I am there for sure. So I am really looking forward to it. And I think our kids, once they see the movie and then get to experience the actual being there and going in the locker rooms and just kind of seeing what old time, small town basketball was like, I think our kids will really enjoy that experience.
You talked about Jason Vermillion. It's funny because I know I'm not supposed to use the L word, but Brett Hammons was on here, and he talked about Lincolnview going to play last year and how kind of the same thing as you. He was more excited than maybe the kids were until he showed them the movie and that they would kind of understand it. But everybody that goes there tries to take throwback jerseys. Are you guys going to do that?
You know what? I haven't even thought about that. We do have some throwback jerseys, but I don't know if our kids would enjoy our throwback jerseys that we have. When we passed out uniforms, it's interesting how things change. But when I was growing up, going through school, the baggy long shorts was like what everybody wanted. So when you got to that was awesome for your uniforms to be like that. Well, our varsity uniforms, my short sizes are actually smaller than my JV and freshman because those are passed down. So it would be interesting if our kids would even enjoy that at all, because everything would be so much more baggier than what they're used to. I'm used to the Fab 5 area where the longer the better. So I don't know if they would like that or not. So that's something we might have to talk about, but I don't know if they would enjoy that.
Well, if you do it, give no credit to Brett and all of the credit to me.
It sounds good.
To everybody else, I stole the idea from Corey Britton when Fort Laramie went, but that's not the point. When you look at the NWC this year, obviously, you know, last year Spencerville got you guys, ended up winning the league. Makes me happy, you not so much. Is that kind of maybe the team that you expect this year?
I think Spencerville is going to be very good, but I don't think they're the only team as I look across the board. Bluffton has a lot back, and they have a player coming back, too, that I think is going to be very good for them. I think it'll be interesting with Grove going so far in football. That puts them behind a little bit, but they're going to get Bernicer back, and their young kids kind of grew up as the year went on last year. They're winning in football, and I think a lot of times that translates over to the next sport. So I think we got to go to Grove, so that's going to be a tough matchup. And we also go to Allen East this year, and I think from a guard standpoint, they have some really skilled, tough-nosed guards that'll be very competitive. So I think it's going to be balanced. This is a year that, to me, on paper, and it might not work out this way, but I don't know if it's going to be tough to go undefeated, because I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be really close in talent level and who plays well, on that given night. I think there's going to be some matchups that are going to be very interesting, and you're going to have to keep an eye on the scoreboard each night. Obviously, you take care of yourself, but I think some teams are going to beat each other this year, and you could win. You win most of them. Obviously, you want to take care of your home games, but I think you could lose one or two games and still have a chance maybe to possibly tie this year with how balanced the league is.
Well, I wish you guys the best of luck, and enjoy that experience in Indiana.
Hey, thank you very much. Looking forward to it, and appreciate all you do for the Northwest Conference and for our young guys. I always tell everybody, coming from Columbus to back home, I don't think people realize how spoiled we are in this area with the coverage we get until you go somewhere else and you don't get the coverage. But coming back home has been awesome, and I appreciate all the media and guys like you do to support our athletes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. That's Doug Etzler, the head coach of the Crestview Knights, here on the show. Thank you so much for listening and staying tuned. I realize that it is a lot of information, but I hope you had at least one or maybe 10 interviews that you really enjoyed in this segment and in overall. If you've made it the entire way, can't say enough. Please, again, hit me up on Twitter, @MichaelHearnPBP. Tell me who it was that you enjoyed or maybe who you didn't. It doesn't matter either way. But I appreciate it, and I can't say thank you enough to the 45 coaches who were a part of it. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you get out to some games. Big ones coming up this weekend and all season long. Happy to be out there. If you see me, say hi. And you can always find me behind the mic. Have a great night and an even better tomorrow. And happy Thanksgiving.
Here I go. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Around the Hearn. Come back next week for more local stories from the NWO. But until then, be sure to follow us on Twitter @MichaelHearnPBP for more great area content.